Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Conscious Educator Playground podcast. And I am super excited today to welcome a dear friend and educator who I've known for a few years now, Miss Suzie Serna. And Suzie, I want to welcome you and thank you so much for being on the Trusted Educator series of my podcast. And if you could tell everyone just a little snippet about you, what your role is now, and how long you've been in education.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Sandy. Such a pleasure. I am currently an assistant principal in Las Vegas, Nevada. I do work for CCSD, and my whole entire career has actually been with CCSD, and I'm super proud of that. Although I grew up in Southern California and my education, my schooling was all in SoCal, I immediately moved here once I graduated, and I was a substitute teacher, and I just slowly progressed. I became a teacher and a dean, and now I'm an assistant principal, and now I'm looking to move into the principalship. So it's been 19 years here in Las Vegas, and yeah, still not used to the heat, but you know.
No. I don't know that we ever, quote unquote, get used to it.
I don't know that I'm ever going to get used to this heat. It's 109 today, so.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a doozy for sure. I think what one of the things that I love about someone that is in a role like yours at the assistant principal level, and especially having been in education for 19 years, is you've seen so much, right? And
Yes.
You've seen education evolve, you've seen things work, you've seen things not work. And there's a lot that we can talk about in education of what's not working, right? And we'll talk a little bit about challenges, but really the purpose of the Trusted Educator series in the podcast is that this is an opportunity to play and focus on what is working. Because when we focus on what is working, then we actually get more of that. And you've been around my world long enough to know that I preach that, I practice it, and it is kind of a broken record of my voice is that, you know, what we focus on expands. And so really shining a light on educators like yourself who are trusted within the community, who actually are doing amazing work. And if we can amplify that and shine a light on one of the things that I believe is working really well in education are the humans in the system who have this deep-rooted, can't not do this work. And that's really what I wanted to chat with you about today. And so let's start off with you sharing about the time when you knew that you were meant to be an educator. And I don't know if that was before you became one or in the middle of your career, or maybe that you still question it some days. I'm not sure, but tell us about that time.
I think a lot of educators are questioning that right now, but I always knew, I come from a family of educators. And so I always knew that I wanted to be one. I mean, I remember being a first grader, and when they asked, you know, what are you going to be? I knew I was going to be a teacher. I just always had a passion for children and school, and I just knew that was the direction. At first, I thought I was going to be a kindergarten teacher, and because, you know, I loved small children, but oh my goodness, then I got to high school and realized, you know, I really want to be a high school teacher. Like that's really where I want to be. I really want to help guide those minds as they're stepping out into the real world. And when I moved to Las Vegas, my first long-term sub position was in a middle school, and then I just stayed. I just stayed in middle school. So all of my 19 years have all been in middle school. So, and I wouldn't change it. I love it.
It's such, a lot of people say this, that anyone who works in middle school is a saint.
It takes a special person, let me tell you, it does. It's just, you know, kids change, and they're evolving, and they're going through hormonal changes, and they're going through just so much as a middle schooler. And I remember growing up and I hated middle school. That was like the worst time for me. Like I hated it, just to, you know, becoming, you know, that transition where you're not quite a girl or like a little kid anymore, but you're kind of going into being a teen, and oh gosh, going through puberty. And it was just so awkward, and I hated middle school. So the fact that I became a middle school educator, I'm like, you know what, maybe this is just where I need to be. I need to help those kids out, because I remember like, I hated it. But
yeah, and you have that level of empathy to go, yes. I remember that transitional part of life, and I think that that's so key in any human relationships, right? And no matter what roles you're in, is that deep empathy of I see you and I
Yes.
hear you and I acknowledge you for the unique, amazing human that you are. And I think that that's a gift for sure.
I think reading and just seeing quotes now, and I really do just try to be the person I needed when I was a kid. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, absolutely.
trying to be that person for kids at that age now. Like I know what I needed and I didn't have it. So now I kind of want to be that for the kids at this level.
That's huge. And I'm sure so impactful for them. And that kind of leads me into my next question, which is, why are you so passionate about your leadership at this point? We're talking about you with students, but that being in an assistant principal role, you are leading the school with your fellow administrators. And so tell us about your passion for this role, because it is very different than a classroom teacher.
It is, absolutely. And I think I left the classroom predominantly because I wanted to make that change at a greater level. I feel like when I was in the classroom, I was able to connect and and help coach the teachers that were in my PLC grade level. And so I remember distinctly turning down a scripted program and telling my then boss, no, we're not doing a scripted program. We're not going to jump on board. I think that the teachers here on our campus, we have that expertise. We don't need a scripted program. And at a time when the neighboring schools were all jumping on it, I was like adamant, no, we're not. We're going to use our own expertise. We're all experts. We're all passionate about our subject. And my boss looked at me at the time and she said, we're going against the grain here. And I said, if I don't show you results in the year, I said, we'll go with the scripted program, but I'm guaranteeing you're going to see results. And we did. And that was just when I was teaching in the classroom, and we were so excited at the end of the year that we saw the great gains. And then I thought, if I could do this with just my PLC grade level, here at my one school, then I know I can make a difference and I can make change, and especially for those that are underserved. And that's when I decided I need to put my administrative degree to use, and I need to start advocating for those that are underserved.
Yeah, that's so incredible. And I get chills hearing you talk about that, because that is the key to the success of education, and what education means holistically for our whole lives is really, as educators, trusting that intuitive knowing, right? When it is a deep truth within you where you're like, I can't not, right? Like this must be done. And it's challenging, right? It's really hard to actually take that leap of faith and stand in your position of strength and say, I believe so wholeheartedly in this, that this is a full yes. And when you're surrounded and supported by colleagues and supervisors, bosses, mentors that support you and uplift you and allow you to really flex that muscle and those neural pathways, how empowering is that, right?
Right.
And go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And after that experience, I was like, okay, like I need to take this and move on. Like I need to grow this. And so I think that's kind of what led me into that administrative path. And it's taken a while. It wasn't something that happened overnight, especially when you're becoming a new administrator. You're learning a whole new task, and you're learning a whole new side of education. Sometimes that does kind of get put a little bit on the back burner when you're just learning to, really supervise and become a manager is really what it becomes. And so I think that part sometimes gets a little lost because you get pulled in so many different directions. And it's like, for me, it's like, I always want to be able to come back to curriculum. Okay. And that's what's important. It's kids and what we do. I mean, all of the outside factors, you can't change that. You can't change, the outside world and, what's happening in children's homes, but I can, and I can control what's happening in those four walls for those kids in the classroom and with teachers. I can, that's one thing we can control is instruction. So that's where it's like, that's my baby is instruction.
I love that. And speaking of your learning journey, right? Because we talk so much about the students and, their learning journey and their experience and all of those things. And I often say, yes, please continue to teach the children and keep them safe. And where my passion comes into this world of education is what's best for the educators within our classrooms, within our buildings, within our schools, our organizations that support education. And that's not an easy journey for educators to be on their own growth and learning journey and be, it's part of your own evolution.
Mhm.
And it's it's not an easy ride sometimes.
It's not. And pandemic certainly threw a lot of educators and administrators for a loop. And, it made us really question ourselves and what we were doing. And, but I think it was also a really great eye opener, and it was a really great game changer. It was a time when we can really just, hey, like, we know what wasn't working in the past, and now we're in, this whole new virtual learning setting, and, we can put our tech to use. And so, but then coming back to hybrid, and then, coming back to full on, 100% brick and mortar building, that had some struggles too. I mean, it was definitely a challenging year last year. We thought, we're going to get right back to normal. We're going to just, get right back into it. And that did not happen.
Right. Right.
It was just put the brakes on, because that was just not the case. But I think that it made us all better for it. I think we understood, all right, we need to take a step back. We need to look at what are kids bringing to the table? What aside from the academics and the skills, but it became more of a social emotional, like, okay, we really need to tap into helping our kids be ready for learning before they can learn. So it really took everybody kind of back. And I think as educators needed to really step back and become more empathetic and realize that our kids have lives at home, and they're oftentimes very different from ours. And if anything was exposed during the pandemic, it was that.
Was there a time in your career when you questioned everything?
Absolutely. Those pandemic years.
Yeah.
Pandemic years really, really, for a lot of us, it was, oh my gosh, can I really do this? Can we really imagine a world where if we don't come back to a brick and mortar building, can I be, a successful administrator and make change, via, a computer screen? Like, how effective can I be? And we really all questioned. I think we all had that moment where we're like, I don't know if I can do this. I miss, those connections with kids. And, a lot of times with the cameras being off, it was really hard to connect and see body language and see facial expressions. And I was just very thankful that, the state allowed us to have waivers for those state exams, because I just felt like it wasn't going to be a true, authentic assessment of what our kids know. So I think a lot of us questioned ourselves and whether we could make it out, but we did. And I can say that this year is going so much better than last year. Like, everyone's, you can tell that the tone and the mood and the climate is just a sense of normalcy is returning. And I think we had that challenge last year, and kind of taking back our school and like, hey, like, that's not what we do. Like, we don't do those things, like retraining kids. And so I think the effort that we put in last year has paid off, because this year has been such a smoother start. So
yeah. And when you talk about that effort, what were some of those foundational components to your culture that really made a difference?
I mean, basics. I mean, absolute fundamental basics. Discipline. Also, just making sure that kids and parents understood what our expectations were. Really just stressing what our behavioral expectations were, and modeling that, and having consequences that fit, not just punitive consequences just for, punitive purposes, but really just looking at things restoratively. I know restorative justice is a huge piece of progressive discipline, but it was also, everything is kind of it's almost like on a case-by-case scenario. Everything is just so, it's not black and white. There's tons of gray in between. And it was really that, really getting to know each of our students and their families and really honing whatever skills and supports that those students needed, making sure that we set them up with such. So I know the district came out with a lot of social emotional supports for the counselors to help our families. And so it's really following up and making sure that our kids got those basic needs met, whether it was food or outside services for therapy, or we had a school safe professional on campus that was really open, and she was really great. We won't have her this year, but she was a great resource for us that our kids can just kind of go and just if they needed to decompress or if they just needed a minute or we have a lot more kids now that are dealing with anxiety and just stress and don't necessarily know how to cope with it. So just teaching kids coping skills, and that was kind of our basics, getting down to okay, making sure that our kids are fundamentally okay, and then we can get into the learning.
What were those supports like for the adults on campus as well?
I think for us, it was a lot of getting to just touching base with our own individual teachers that we support, and just knowing that, hey, it's okay. Like, it's okay if you're not caught up. I remember especially being a new teacher, just feeling like you're just really overwhelmed and drowning. And are you ever going to catch up? The answer is no. You're probably never going to catch up, and it's okay. So if you know that up front, you definitely need to know your content, and you definitely need to be prepared for your kids on a daily basis. But, other than that, all the extras, and don't compare yourself to somebody who's in their 10th year of teaching, just be yourself, have fun with the kids, establish those relationships with kids. Because if you're not doing that, and you're at least not having fun in your own classroom, it just takes away from, that passion that you wanted when you're first in the classroom. So I think for our teachers, it was, hey, just go easy on yourself. I know you want to fix it all, because by nature we're fixers. But I think with them, it was, hey, just one day at a time. It's okay. Like, we're not going to fix all the problems in one day, but let's just take it one step at a time. And then my door's open, text me, call me if you need a break. I'll come in and cover your class, just whatever you need. I can support you instructionally. I mean, that's what I'm here for, but I'm also here as don't just see me as your supervisor. I'm also here to make sure that you're okay. So I think once they understood that we are here, and that it's not a it's not a gotcha. I'm not coming in for an observation to ding you. Like, I'm here to help you. My purpose is to help you grow. And if I'm going to come in with that kind of mentality, then I'm going to scare teachers away. So, and that's not what we need right now with our national shortage. So I think the more they can feel supportive and feel like they're in a supportive culture and environment, then we're meeting our teachers' needs. So I don't know that I can say that we had, specific structures, but I think it was just on a human level, getting to know your teachers on just that human level. And hey, how was your weekend, or how's your dog, or just sharing things about daily life. It's not just, I'm not just here as a instructional leader, but I'm here because I do care about you, and I want you to be okay.
Absolutely. And the work that we've been able to do together over the years, and one of the things that I know you guys were most proud of was in your vision statement of being positive and purpose driven, and really like living and embodying that, and getting to a place where that statement has evolved into together with purpose. And so really living that on a daily basis and making it a non-negotiable of, this is who we are and this is how we do things here, and aligning it to the core values that you have established. And it's just so powerful when you see it in action, and you have so much anecdotal data to prove like why it matters to really set those foundational culture pieces that you're describing, that everyone gets to feel safe and seen and heard and valued. And when you do that, no matter what someone's role is within a school community, it really, like you said, it creates that safe environment where you get to show up as the unique, amazing human that you are, and you get to be celebrated for it. Even if you are late on this or on that, it's like, okay, how can I support you versus, a write-up,
Right.
whether that's for an adult or a child. And we're all human and life happens. And so I
Right.
really admire that about you and your fellow administrators in how you operate that way as a human first culture, which is super powerful. And so I want to hear about a connection that you had either with a student or a teacher that either surprised you or had a profound impact on you as an educator.
I did. And I had one recently. I, this young lady, particular young lady, she was very misunderstood, and she was an excellent writer, but I think her writing, people were turned off by, or teachers tended to be turned off, or they sometimes were like, oh my gosh, should I be alerted? Like, and I'm like, maybe she's just being creative. Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay that she, wants to talk about these things that are maybe sometimes taboo, or just maybe not what maybe would bring a red flag. And so I kind of took an interest in that. And so I read her writing and I said, you know what? I said, I get it, rather than being written up because, the writing is, X, Y, or Z. I'm like, let's just take a look and appreciate the writing for what it actually is, provided that you're not, in a bad mental state or, whatnot. So I kind of approached it that way and we kind of bonded over that. And so I was on the verge of not going to an interview. And I was, at duty, and I was, just wasn't feeling it. I'm like, you know what, maybe this is just not meant to be. I, just not feeling like I had a whole lot to contribute. And so I started talking with her and she's like, Miss, she's like, of all people, really? She's like, you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I'm not feeling it. And she's like, you have to go because you would tell me the same thing. Like, you have to go. You would tell me you have to go to that. Like, you have to show up and be yourself and be 100%. And so I looked at this young lady who was 12 years old, who was giving me a pep talk now as I'm sitting there, like, not wanting to go on this interview. And she's like, you have to go. Like, you have to. She's like, get your shoes on and she's like, you have to go. And I was like, okay, I have to go. So I can't let her down. So
Wow.
she's like, and you call me and you let me know how that interview went. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so sure enough, I checked my email the next morning and she said, I know you rocked that interview. I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad you went. I don't know if you went, but I'm sure you went. And so like, she even followed up and I was just so like, oh, like, wow. Like, we don't often think that they're looking or they pay attention or they notice us as humans, but she definitely did. And I went to that interview. I did well. And because of that, I got into the principal pool. So I had to make sure. Yeah. And so I had to make sure that I went back the next day and I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. Thank you. Like, thank you. You did that. Because I was seriously not going to go. And she's like, oh, you have to, Miss. And so I did. And so she's no longer at my school, but that was definitely a moment that I will never forget. And I will always remember that child.
Yeah. Oh, that's so inspiring. And there's hundreds of thousands of stories like that, where when we have that authentic human connection, how much we can inspire and influence each other.
Absolutely.
And it's just so powerful. What is your wish for the future of education?
Oh boy. There's so much. I don't know that there's I don't know that there's just one, but gosh, I wish we could get back to being inspirational. I wish that we could get back to being inspirational teachers. And I know that there are definitely inspirational teachers out there. I know that. I just, even, us, we sometimes, like how I was feeling with that student, just kind of doubting myself. And I know that we get into those funks. And so I feel like if we could kind of find there's a great book, I'm going to go off on a tangent, The Wild Card, and that's, it's written by Hope and Wade King. And part of that is find your wow factor. Not everyone is going to be, a Ron Clark or whatnot, but find your own style, find your own, what that passion, that joy, what brings you that, and bring that to your classroom, make that who you show up as every day, so that we bring that joy back to learning that I feel sometimes gets lost.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds so simple, right?
You're right.
And yet it does get lost in along our learning journey,
Yeah.
right?
It
And
gets lost in our daily routine and our daily just making sure we're crossing, or checking off the boxes to make sure that we're doing things, for administrative purposes or whatnot. But I really wish we could just get back to that love of learning and instilling that love of learning, making learning joyful again, and inspiring kids to want to become teachers, because we're going to need teachers in the future. And so the rhetoric sometimes, of course, the pendulum shifts back and forth. And so we need teachers, and we need kids that are going to want to grow up to be teachers. And I don't know that we have a lot of that right now. So I wish we could go back to that, to where, I wanted to be a teacher when I was a little kid growing up. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to be a teacher and have my own classroom, and I'm going to teach my kids this and that. And I don't know. I don't think that's the current rhetoric. So I think if we could inspire a new generation to be teachers, and to be and show up and be those kids that we needed, or to be those adults that we needed, then
right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's my wish, I think.
And so if you could share, because we were talking about, like, we're all on this learning journey. If you could share with other students, other educators, we're all lifelong learners. And I want you to share something that's been an impactful lesson along your learning journey. Like, what's one lesson that you would want to share with others that was impactful to you?
I'm going to throw this one to something that was learned with this administrative team, and that's the assumption of generosity and assuming generously. I think that has been a game changer for me. Really stepping back and reviewing conversations, or even in real life, just not being so quick to have an answer, to just answer and listen, or to have that reply. But it's more like, let me understand where you're coming from. What's your true intention behind this? And then can we work on this together to find a solution, rather than just it's a no or it's a yes, or things are this way because they have to be. I don't. That has been for me really eye-opening, and just, hey, don't be so quick to be defensive. Like, not everyone is out to to crush you or to be against you. Rather, just, hey, take some time to learn other people's point of view. Where are they coming from? What's their end game? Are we in alignment? Are our visions in alignment? How do we get there together? Because ultimately, I'm sorry, that's what we're looking for, common ground for one purpose, and that's the purpose of student achievement. So we have to generously assume oftentimes that we're not coming from a negative place, but we're coming from a positive place.
And it takes practice, right?
It does.
We've had those conversations over the years, as even amongst each other, as administrators. And when you're leading a building and you're all driven leaders, and you all have your unique brain-wired strengths, and really getting your team in flow and having those trust building conversations, because that's the cornerstone of that, of the generosity of assumption, is that it builds and grows trust. Because if I can assume generously that your intentions are good and in the right place, and that you're not evil,
Yes.
then we can actually have a productive, conscious conversation. And I know that we've been able to have some really powerful, I think one of the most fun activities that I remember doing with your team was the trust speed dating, and being able to just have fun and be playful with it, and go, okay, how can we build and grow trust with each other in 2 minutes? And then, okay, done, switch, and done, switch. And then just recognizing how quickly we can build and grow trust, because we know how quickly it can be eroded away at, but really focusing on how quickly we can build it is super powerful. I love that you brought that story up. And with that, we're all still working on things. So what's something that you're still working on? and that's evolving in your world?
In my education world?
It could be anything, really. Open book. We're whole humans.
Oh, let's not go in the other realm. So in my education realm, I think we're really just looking to, we got our data back, and so it's not quite what we want it to be. And so I think now that we are all on a better mindset, we did show some areas of growth, and so I think now it's all right, pedal to the metal. Like there's no more excuses. There's no more we're going to have a break on for this testing, or this testing score doesn't matter. And it's like, you know what, no, like it's time to own it and move forward. Like if we don't own that we have areas of growth, and view them as an opportunity to grow, then we don't have time to point fingers and do the blame game. That's not going to get us anywhere. It's just, hey, this is where we are. We know what standards are. We know where they need to go. So let's do it. What's the, I don't want to say the fastest way between point A and point B, but we have our standards. We know what the curriculum is. It's like, let's get to it. We know how to deal now with social and emotional deficiencies for kids, and we know how to set them up with the proper supports. So great. That's, great. Like moving on, like we know how to do that. So now let's, again, let's get back to what we can control. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more growth. More growth is what I'm really looking forward to. So putting forth those systems and structures to see continued growth.
And I love hearing you talk about like turning challenges into opportunities,
right?
And having that be something that is just innate in living your values, right? And
right.
Really practicing what you preach and being able to live in alignment with that, like you said earlier, is not always easy when you get stuck in the day-to-day nuances of things happening. And you're in a middle school, for Pete's sake, like you never know what you're going to get on any given day.
You don't.
It's always an adventure, right? And so to have that mindset shift of any challenge that's in front of you, it's like, all right, what's the opportunity here? Is it a learning opportunity? Is it an opportunity for change? Is it an opportunity to, maybe lean in a little bit more to the human empathetic side, whatever it is. I think that's really powerful as well. So a couple more questions as we kind of wrap up our time together, but what does success look and feel like to you as an educator? What does success look and feel like to you?
So to me, success looks like laughter, joy. When you walk into a classroom and you know that kids are getting it, they are enjoying what they're learning, they're actively using the vocabulary, and they're having, true academic discourse, and it's inspiring them to think and to come up, with just bigger ideas based on what they're already talking about. Just something that, they often say that the biggest, what is like a telltale sign of an office culture is the amount of laughter you hear. So that kind of tells you what the culture is like in a building. And so I think, I don't mean shenanigan laughters. I mean like that, what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like
I do.
If you walk in and you can just tell, oh my gosh, like they're on it. There's that synergy. Kids are getting it and they're happy about it. To me, that's what, if I can walk into my classrooms and I can leave, then to me, that's a successful day. I know to others, it might be, I want to hang a 5-star, banner or whatnot, but that's a whole nother issue as well. But I think if the kids are happy and healthy and they're learning, I think that's success.
I love that. It's one of the reasons why you and I connect so much, is I think at the core of who we are, our values are aligned as humans. And we talk a lot about that. And I want to honor you not only as an educator, but as a friend and a fellow human on this journey to revolutionize education from the inside out, because that's what we get to do each and every day together. And it's in these micro moments where it's happening. that's where the juicy bits are, right? That's where it is actually happening.
Yes.
If we zoom out to the big macro scale, we're not going to see it. But the more that we really lean into this values aligned, human first, safe culture for our students and our adults to be in these buildings together, then learning is going to happen. And we're going to build and grow trust with one another. And when you have that trust, it's the foundation of everything. And
it's just so sad that that's not measured. That's not going to be measured in a state test. That's not going to be measured. And so you hope that passion and that skill transfers.
Yeah, it's that ripple of impact. And we know it in our bones. It's just going to take the data side a minute to catch up. To prove what we know in our bones.
Yes.
And
so I look forward to that. I think we're going to get there. I think we have some work to do. I'm not naive about that, but I think we're going to get there. And I think that a lot of our teachers are doing what needs to be done to get there.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. I have one more fun question for you. What was your favorite childhood toy, game, or adventure?
Oh my gosh, hands down was my Rainbow Bright. I loved my Rainbow Bright doll.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, she was my favorite. Being the youngest of four, I got a lot of hand-me-down toys and hand-me-down clothes, but this one was my own and it was brand new out of a box. So, oh man, I loved her. I combed her hair and I dressed her and she was just my baby. And
I love it.
Oh my gosh. But one day my sister and I got into a fight and I had her by the body and she had her by the hair and we ripped her apart. And so her head came off. Her head came off of the body. And so I tried my best to put little rubber bands around her neck to get her to come back. It didn't work. She was ruined. But that is my favorite. That's my favorite childhood story too. So my doll.
Well, hopefully one of these days you can find another Rainbow Bright.
And maybe
your sister. You have one now? Okay.
I have one now. She's a smaller version, and I don't play as roughly with her. So.
And your sister plays nice as well.
Well, now it's with my daughter. So now we take care of Rainbow Bright.
Got it.
So we don't pull hair. So she knows.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. It's really about bringing that play and that joy back into our daily lives. And even as adults, we crave play. And so I hope everyone walks away with a nugget of wisdom or several from our amazing time together, Suzie. It's just so wonderful to connect with you and have this time and to play on the playground. And
absolutely,
it's called the Conscious Educator Playground for a reason, is because we get to play and we get to bring that true, authentic joy back into the world of education. And you're doing it every day. And I honor you as a human. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you. I hope I didn't ruin too much, or I hope I
You were fantastic. And I thank you so much for all of it.
Oh, thank you. Yay.